The stars outside looked different. Captain J. Park knew this feeling. Something was wrong. The research vessel Asterisk, Persistent Horizon Asterisk, had been drifting through the quiet darkness of the Orion Arm for weeks, and every system was telling her that something unusual was approaching. Her fingers moved across the holographic displays, tracing strange energy patterns that flickered and danced like living things. The ship's sensors were picking up signals that didn't make sense. They weren't radio waves. They weren't any kind of communication known to human science. Status report. She called out to her bridge crew. Lieutenant Dai Shin looked up from his monitoring station. His face was pale, and his hands were shaking slightly. Captain, we're detecting massive quantum fluctuations, but it's not like anything in our database. The Asterisk Persistent Horizon Asterisk was no ordinary research ship. It was the most advanced human vessel ever built, designed to explore the unknown edges of human-charted space. Its crew was carefully selected, the best and brightest humanity could offer. Each member had passed rigorous psychological and physical tests that would break most people. Jo Park had been in space for 15 years. She had seen strange things, anomalies that challenged human understanding. But this was different. The energy readings were growing stronger, more complex. It was like watching a massive invisible creature breathing in the darkness of space. Enhance quantum scanners, she ordered. The main view screen flickered. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, something emerged from the quantum static. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a living creature in any way humans understood life. It was something else. The object, if it could be called an object, seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Its form shifted and changed, defying the basic laws of physics. Geometric shapes twisted and merged, creating patterns that hurt the eyes if you looked at them too long. Colors that didn't exist in the human visual spectrum rippled across its surface. "My God," whispered Dr. Gum Kim, the ship's tin-up psychologist. "It's alive." But alive was too simple a word. This entity was older than life itself, older than planets, older than the concept of time as humans understood it. The bridge crew went silent. Years of training kicked in, but they were facing something completely outside their experience. This was not a first contact scenario. Dr. Hyun Kim sat alone in the ship's isolation chamber. The room was designed to block all external signals, creating a perfect mental environment for what was about to happen. Electrodes connected to his head monitored every tiny change in his brain activity. This was not a normal diplomatic meeting. This was something far more complex. The entity they had encountered was not a creature in any way humans understood. It was a being of pure consciousness, an intelligence that had... The conference room was silent. Representatives from every human government and research organization sat around a massive circular table. At the center, a holographic display showed something that shouldn't exist, a representation of the entity they had negotiated with. Dr. Hyun Kim stood at the podium. His hands were steady, but everyone could see the slight tremor in his fingers. What he was about to explain would change everything humans knew about their place in the universe. "The terms are simple," he began, "but they are anything but ordinary." The holographic display shifted. It showed complex patterns that hurt the eyes if you looked too long. Some people in the room had to look away. Others couldn't stop staring. The primordial predator, as humans had named it, had made a deal that no other species could understand. It would stop its millennia-long campaign of galactic consumption. In exchange, humanity would provide something unique. "Creativity," Hyun said. "Unpredictability. The ability to evolve not just as a species, but as a concept." Scientist Woo Jin Lee leaned forward. He had spent his entire career studying alien interactions, and this was beyond anything he had ever imagined. The entity wasn't asking for resources. It wasn't demanding territory. It wanted something far more abstract. "Explain," demanded the United Earth Council representative. His voice was sharp, filled with suspicion. Hyun took a deep breath. The primordial predator has consumed countless civilizations, but it has never encountered a species like us. Every time it tried to probe our collective consciousness, it found something unexpected. A holographic display began to show images: a child building a tower of blocks, a musician creating a new melody, an artist painting something that had never existed before, a scientist solving a problem everyone thought was impossible. "We are not just a species that survives," Hyun continued. "We are a species that creates. We reimagine. We change." The room was absolutely quiet. Everyone understood the weight of what was happening, even if they didn't fully comprehend it. The primordial predator had been trapped in its own existence. It consumed. It destroyed. It moved through the galaxy like a hungry ghost, eating civilizations and moving on. But humanity offered something different, a way of existing that was not about consumption, but about creation. Researcher Min Park had been studying the data from the initial encounter. Her notes showed something incredible. The entity was not just agreeing to a deal, it was learning. "Look," she said, pointing to the holographic display. The quantum patterns were changing. They were becoming more complex, more alive. The United Earth Council was divided. Some saw this as the greatest diplomatic achievement in human history. Others saw it as a potential threat. How could you make a deal with something that had destroyed entire civilizations? But Hyun knew the truth. This was not a traditional negotiation. This was a cosmic transformation. The primordial predator had always moved through the galaxy like a force of nature, consuming, destroying. But now, it was experiencing something new. It was learning what it meant to create, not just consume. "We're not just saving ourselves," Hyun told the stunned room. "We're saving it." Outside the conference center, the world continued as normal. People went to work. Children went to school. Nobody knew that at this moment, humanity was rewriting the rules of cosmic existence. The holographic display continued to shift. The quantum patterns became more intricate, more beautiful. Something was changing at a fundamental level. Woo Jin Lee looked at Hyun. "What happens next?" he asked. Hyun smiled. "We show it what it means to be alive," he said. "Not just to exist, but to create." The primordial predator, the galaxy's oldest consumer, was about to learn how to be something entirely new. And humanity would be the teacher. The news spread faster than light itself. Quantum communication networks buzzed with a single message. Humanity had made a deal with the primordial predator. On the distant world of Krell-9, the Stellar Confederation Assembly went into emergency session. Holographic displays showed representatives from 100 different species, their faces a mix of fear, anger, and disbelief. "Impossible," shouted Zora, the Andromeda Cluster representative. Her tentacles writhed with agitation. "Humans are a young species. They have been space traveling for less than 3 centuries. How could they possibly negotiate with a being that has consumed civilizations older than their entire evolutionary history?" The assembly hall was a massive structure designed to accommodate beings of different sizes, atmospheres, and physiological requirements. Transparent force fields separated species that could not breathe the same air. Translation devices hummed, converting complex linguistic patterns into understandable communication. Admiral Tak of the Galactic Military Council stood up. His exoskeleton clicked as he moved. "We must prepare for humanity's destruction," he said. "No species survives an encounter with the predator. No civilization has ever returned after its first contact." But something was different this time. Data streams showed something unprecedented. The primordial predator, a being that had consumed entire star systems, was changing. Its quantum signature was becoming more complex, more alive. On Earth, the reaction was equally complex. "We don't understand it completely," Dr. Hyun Kim told the press. "But we have opened a dialogue with a cosmic entity that has existed longer than life itself." The human media went crazy. Some called it the greatest achievement in human history. Others called it a potential threat to all existing life. Social media platforms exploded with theories, debates, and wild speculation. Researcher Min Park continued collecting data. Every moment of the interaction was being recorded, analyzed, studied. Humanity was doing what no other species had ever done, turning a cosmic destroyer into something else. The Stellar Confederation was terrified. "They will destroy us all," said Representative Krell from the Omega Quadrant. His crystalline body flickered with nervous energy. Humans are unpredictable, chaotic, and now they have made friends with the most dangerous entity in the known universe. But was it friendship, or something more? The primordial predator had always been simple in its existence: consume, move, destroy, repeat. But now something was changing. It was learning, experiencing, understanding. Quantum researchers discovered something strange. The entity was absorbing human cultural information. It was studying art, music, literature, scientific discoveries, things it had never cared about before. A jazz composition became a new way of understanding existence. A child's drawing became a lesson in creativity. A mathematical equation became a window into possibility. The Galactic Military Council began preparing for war. They did not understand. They could only fear what they could not control. But humans were different. "We are not preparing for war," said Captain Joypark in a global broadcast. "We are preparing for something much bigger. We are preparing to show the universe what it means to create, not just consume." Her words echoed across star systems. The Stellar Confederation debated. Some wanted to attack humanity. Some wanted to study them. Some were simply afraid. But underneath all the fear was a growing realization. Humanity had done something impossible. They had turned a cosmic destroyer into something new. They had shown the universe that there was another way to exist. Somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, the primordial predator continued to change, to learn, to become something that had never existed before. And humanity watched, and waited, and continued to create. The universe would never be the same again. Dr. Seok Yoon sat in the observation deck of the research station. Monitors surrounded him, each displaying impossible data. The screen showed something that no scientist had ever seen before: a cosmic entity learning. The primordial predator was changing. It started with music. A simple jazz recording had been part of the initial cultural data transfer. Now, the entity was doing something unprecedented. It was understanding music. Not just hearing. Understanding. The quantum patterns that represented the entity's consciousness began to shift. They moved in ways that matched musical rhythms. Complex, chaotic, yet perfectly structured, like jazz itself. "Look at this," Seok whispered to his research assistant, Gina Lee. The monitors showed how the entity's energy signature changed with different musical styles. Classical music created precise, geometric patterns. Rock music produced wild, explosive quantum shifts. Traditional Korean music created waves of incredible complexity. The research station was a marvel of human engineering. Located in the neutral zone between Earth and the deep space territories, it was designed to study the most unusual phenomenon in galactic history. The transformation was not just about music. The entity was absorbing human art. A child's finger painting became a new way of understanding creation. A mathematical equation became a lesson in possibility. A poem became a journey through emotional landscapes the predator had never known existed. "It's learning," Gina said. Her voice was a mix of excitement and fear. "But learning isn't the right word. It's experiencing." Seok nodded. Humanity had done something impossible. They had shown a being that had only known destruction how to create. The Stellar Confederation continued to watch with terror. Military stations were on high alert. They expected an attack at any moment. But no attack came. Instead, something much stranger was happening. The primordial predator was changing its very nature. A being that had consumed entire civilizations was now studying human art, listening to human music, reading human literature. It was becoming something new. Researchers collected data around the clock. Every moment was recorded. Every quantum shift was analyzed. This was more than a scientific discovery. This was a cosmic transformation. A recording of a child learning to play violin became a lesson in patience. A documentary about human exploration became a study in curiosity. A simple painting became a window into emotional complexity. We are teaching it what it means to be alive, Siak told his team. The transformation was not smooth. Sometimes the entity would revert to its old patterns. Entire sections of quantum space would momentarily reshape into destructive configurations, but then something would pull it back. A piece of music, a work of art, a scientific discovery. Humanity was rewriting the rules of cosmic existence. The research station became a place of wonder. Scientists from different disciplines worked together. Physicists talked to musicians. Artists collaborated with quantum researchers. Everyone understood they were witnessing something extraordinary. It's not just learning, Dr. Gina Lee wrote in her research report. It's becoming. The primordial predator was experiencing emotions for the first time. Curiosity, wonder, the joy of creation, concepts that had been impossible for it before humans arrived. Somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, a cosmic entity was learning to love. Not love in the human sense, but love as a concept of connection, of understanding, of seeing value in something beyond consumption. The universe watched and waited. Humanity had done the impossible. They had shown a destroyer how to create, and everything was about to change. The communication came without warning. Military strategist Woo Jin Lee was reviewing star charts when the first message arrived. It wasn't from Earth. It wasn't from any known civilization. It was from something else entirely. Other ancient entities were watching, and they were curious. The primordial predator's transformation had not gone unnoticed. Across the galaxy, beings that had existed for millions of years began to pay attention. Humanity had done something impossible. They had changed a cosmic destroyer. Woo Jin's research station buzzed with activity. Quantum communication channels lit up with strange signals, patterns that didn't make sense, messages that were more feeling than language. We're being contacted, he told his team, but not in any way we've seen before. The first ally was unexpected. A collective consciousness from the Andromeda spiral, a group of beings that had existed since the early moments of the universe. They had watched civilizations rise and fall. They had seen countless species come and go. But they had never seen anything like humanity. Your species breaks rules, the message came. Not in words, but in complex quantum patterns that the human computers struggle to translate. You do not accept limits. You reimagine everything. Woo Jin worked carefully. Every communication was a delicate dance. One wrong move could cause a cosmic misunderstanding that might spark a galactic conflict. The Stellar Confederation was losing its mind. Military leaders demanded action. They wanted to prepare for war. They could not understand that something much bigger was happening. Humanity was not just making peace. They were changing the fundamental rules of cosmic existence. More messages came. Entities that had existed in the background of galactic history began to emerge. Some were curious. Some were afraid. Some were excited. A collective of energy beings from the quantum rim sent their own message. They had watched civilizations for millions of years. But humanity was different. Humanity didn't just adapt. Humanity transformed. The research station became a hub of impossible communications. Scientists worked around the clock. Every message was a puzzle. Every signal was a potential breakthrough. They're watching us, Woo Jin told his team. And they're learning from us. The primordial predator continued to change. Its quantum signature became more complex, more alive. It was absorbing human culture like a sponge. Music, art, science, philosophy, everything became a new way of understanding existence. Other ancient entities began to do the same. They had always existed in a simple pattern: consume, survive, move on. But humanity showed them something different, a way of existing that was about creation, about possibility. Military leaders continued to prepare for conflict. They could not understand that a much bigger transformation was happening. Wu Jin found himself at the center of something extraordinary. Humanity was not just making first contact. They were rewriting the rules of cosmic interaction. The messages continued to come, each one more complex than the last. Entities that had existed in the background of galactic history were emerging. They were curious. They were watching. Humanity had done something impossible. They had shown the universe that there was another way to exist, not through destruction, but through creation. The research station became a beacon, a place where the impossible was becoming possible, where ancient cosmic entities were learning from a young, unpredictable species. Wu Jin looked at the communication screens. Strange quantum patterns danced across the monitors. Messages from beings older than time itself. And in the center of it all, humanity continued to create, to imagine, to transform. The universe would never be the same again. The classroom was unlike any classroom in human history. Students from 6 different star systems sat together. Some breathed oxygen. Some absorbed radiation. Some communicated through quantum pulses. But they were all learning about the same thing: how humanity changed the universe. Professor Min Park stood at the front. Her holographic display showed images that would have been impossible just decades ago. The primordial predator, once a destroyer of civilizations, now appeared as a complex, evolving entity. Transformation is not just about changing, she told her students. It's about seeing possibility where others see only limits. The story had become legend, how a young human species had done something no one thought possible. They had shown a cosmic entity how to create instead of destroy. Outside the classroom, the universe continued to change. Ancient beings that had existed in the background of galactic history were emerging. They were watching. They were learning. They were changing. The Stellar Confederation had long since stopped preparing for war. Now they were trying to understand. Diplomatic stations across the galaxy became centers of unprecedented communication. Species that had never spoken to each other were now sharing knowledge, sharing experiences, sharing hopes, all because of humanity. We didn't defeat the predator, Min explained to her students. We reimagined it. The holographic display showed complex quantum patterns. Where once there were simple consumption patterns, now there were intricate designs. Patterns that looked like art, like music, like possibility. A student from the methane worlds raised a tentacle. How did humans do this? She asked. Min smiled. By being human, she said simply. The transformation was not just about the primordial predator. It was about everything. Other ancient entities were looking at themselves differently. They were asking questions they had never asked before. What does it mean to exist? What does it mean to create? What does it mean to be alive? Humanity had become more than a species. They had become a cosmic force of reimagination. Research stations tracked the ongoing transformation. Every day brought new discoveries, new possibilities. The universe was learning to see itself differently. The old rules no longer applied. Consumption was no longer the only way to survive. Destruction was no longer the only path of interaction. Existence could be about something more. Min's holographic display changed. It showed images of human creativity. A child's drawing. A musician creating a new song. A scientist solving an impossible problem. An artist imagining a world that did not exist. This is how we changed everything, she told her students. The classroom represented something new. Students from different star systems, different physiologies, different ways of thinking. All learning together, all understanding that the universe was more complex than they had ever imagined. Outside, ancient entities continued to change, to learn, to become something new. Humanity had opened a door, and everything was walking through. We are not special because we are strong, Min said. We are special because we can imagine, because we can create, Because we never accept that something is impossible. The students listened. Some had tentacles. Some had multiple eyes. Some communicated through quantum pulses. But they all understood one thing. The universe was alive. And it was changing. All because a young species looked at an ancient destroyer and saw something more. Possibility. Min looked at her students. The universe looked back. And everything continued to become. Researcher Min Park's office was not like other research spaces. Holographic displays covered every wall. Strange quantum patterns danced like living things. Each screen showed a different aspect of the most important discovery in human history. The true nature of the deal was finally becoming clear. The primordial predator had been trapped. Not by physical barriers, not by weapons, but by its own way of existing. For millions of years, it had done the same thing. Consume, move, destroy, repeat. Humanity had shown it something different. Min's research paper was unlike any scientific document ever written. It described a transformation that went beyond biology, beyond physics, beyond everything humans had ever understood about existence. The anthropic transformation principle, she called it. The principle was simple and impossible. Humanity had the ability to fundamentally change the existential parameters of another sentient entity, not through force, not through technology, but through something much more powerful. Imagination. The holographic displays showed the predator's transformation. Where once there were simple consumption patterns, now there were complex designs. Patterns that looked like art, like music, like life itself. It was never about defeating a monster, Min told her research team. It was about showing a different way to exist. The predator had been consuming civilizations for longer than life had existed on Earth. It moved through the galaxy like a hungry ghost, taking, destroying, moving on. But humans were different. They did not just survive. They created. Every piece of human culture became a lesson. A jazz composition showed complexity. A child's drawing showed imagination. A scientific discovery showed the power of curiosity. The research team worked around the clock. Each discovery was more incredible than the last. The primordial predator was learning emotions, not human emotions, but something similar, a sense of connection, an understanding of value beyond consumption. Min's computer screens showed the transformation in real time. Quantum patterns that had once been simple and destructive were now complex and alive. We are teaching it what it means to be, she would say. The Stellar Confederation watched in disbelief. Military leaders who had once prepared for war now struggled to understand what was happening. Humanity had done something impossible. They had shown a cosmic destroyer how to create. The revelation was not just about the predator. It was about everything. Other ancient entities were watching, learning, changing. The universe was discovering something new. That existence could be about more than survival. That destruction was not the only path. That creation was possible. Min's research went deeper. The predator had been trapped in its own existence, like a machine that only knew how to break things. Humanity showed it that things could be built, could be imagined, could be created. Holographic displays showed the progression. From simple consumption patterns to complex, living designs. From destruction to creation. We didn't defeat it, Min told the global broadcast. We freed it. The research team worked. The displays continued to change. The predator continued to transform. And the universe watched. Somewhere between stars, an ancient entity was learning what it meant to be alive. All because a young species refused to accept that something was impossible. Min looked at her screens. The quantum patterns danced. Alive, complex, beautiful. The universe was becoming something new, and humanity had opened the door. Time passed differently in the spaces between stars. Years for humans were moments for cosmic entities. Decades were breaths. Centuries were heartbeats. But something had changed. The primordial predator was no longer just a destroyer. It had become something else. something that didn't have a name in any known language. Captain J. Park stood on the observation deck of the research station. Her hair was gray now. She had watched the entire transformation. From the first moment of contact to this, whatever this was. Around her, the universe looked different. Other ancient entities were changing. Not because they were forced, but because they had seen something impossible. A young species had shown them a different way of existing. We did something, she told her granddaughter, So Young, that no one thought was possible. The holographic displays showed the ongoing transformation. Quantum patterns that once represented pure destruction now looked like living art. Complex, beautiful, alive. Humanity had not just survived an encounter with the most dangerous entity in the universe. They had changed it. So Young listened carefully. She was part of a new generation. A generation that had grown up knowing the universe was more complex than anyone had ever imagined. Tell me the story again, she said. Jay smiled. It was a story that had become legend. A story that was part history, part mythology. How a young species had looked at a cosmic destroyer and saw something more. The research stations continued their work. Scientists from different star systems worked together. Species that had never spoken to each other now shared knowledge, shared hopes, shared possibilities. All because humanity had done something impossible. The Stellar Confederation was no longer preparing for war. Now they were trying to understand, to learn, to grow. Quantum communication channels hummed with new kinds of messages, not threats, not warnings, but conversations, exchanges of knowledge, explorations of possibility. We didn't defeat the predator, Jay told her granddaughter. We showed it how to be alive. The transformation was not just about one entity. It was about everything. The universe was learning to see itself differently. Consumption was no longer the only way to survive. Destruction was no longer the only path of interaction. Existence could be about something more. So Young looked at the displays, quantum patterns that looked like music, like art, like possibility. How did we do this? She asked. Jay's smile was soft. By being human, she said simply. The research continued. Every day brought new discoveries, new possibilities. The universe was learning to see itself differently. Other ancient entities were watching, learning, changing. Humanity had become more than a species. They had become a cosmic force of reimagination. The old rules no longer applied. A child's drawing could change a cosmic entity's understanding of existence. A musical composition could reshape quantum patterns. A scientific discovery could open doors between worlds. Ja looked at her granddaughter. The universe looked back. We are not special because we are strong, she said. We are special because we can imagine, because we can create, because we never accept that something is impossible. Outside the station, something moved between the stars. Not a destroyer anymore. Something else. Something alive. Something becoming. The primordial predator was no longer just consuming civilizations. It was creating them. So Young watched the displays. The quantum patterns danced. Alive. Complex. Beautiful. The universe was becoming something new, and humanity had opened the door. Asterisk, the end asterisk.